Sawadee welcome back to my second try on talking about MMA here. This time it's not a recap, it's a preview of the next upcoming One Championship event, which is on May 17th in Singapore, where One Championship is based. And this upcoming card is stacked. And that's why I thought it makes sense to talk about it, maybe also for those who are not that familiar with One Championship yet. Quickly introducing the guys that are going to be fighting, guys and girls that are going to be fighting, and just pointing out a few fights that I think are worth paying extra attention to. So without further ado, let's check the card and let's see who's gonna fight. And the first fight will be Rahul Raju versus Richard Cominal from the Philippines, Rahul from India. And I think if you follow one, you know Rahul from his fight against Gary Tonon, I believe, a few months back. And everyone thought, oh, Gary Tonon's just going to go in, a submission specialist, just going to take Rahul down and just submit him. And he actually stayed in there. He found his way out of lots of dangerous looking submissions. So and tried to bring the fight to Tonon. Tonon eventually succeeded. But it was a really tough fight for Tonon back then, and Rahul Raju really surprised me there. Looks a bit, I mean, he's jacked, he's really fit. His movements don't look that smooth in my opinion, but everything he does makes sense, and he seemed to have like really good decision making there. And he seemed to be really well prepared for his opponents. His opponent, Richard Cominal from the Philippines, if you follow one, you know him because he fights quite a lot. Also kind of like, I think like kind of like a gatekeeper thing there. He fights well, doesn't always win, but usually brings the best out of his opponents. Here I think it's kind of like a toss-up. Can Rahul improve upon his previous performances, or will Cominal show up in his best form, in his best version of himself? Because then he's really dangerous. So for me it's a toss-up. I would say probably Rahul Raju in this case, simply because he's been doing quite well as of late, and I think he probably still keeps on improving. So will Cominal probably, but I think in this case Rahul has the motivational edge here, and so I'm thinking he's gonna take this. And there are changes in the card, so Daniel Dawson, as far as I know, will now face Brown Pinas. To be honest, I've only seen Brown Pinas fighting before. He's very sound, I think, technical, very sound, very aggressive fighter. So I think he's gonna bring the fire. I don't know how well prepared he is, because apparently it's a late notice thing, short notice. Add to the card for him. I hope he obviously been training, but I hope he's well prepared. Last time I saw him fighting, he brought the heat, so I'm looking forward to that in regards to see what Brown Pinas brings. You have to take probably Daniel Dawson, because he's been preparing for this fight and had a full fight camp, I believe, and Brown Pinas might not have had one. So difficult to pick against the guy with the full fight camp, but let's see what Brown Pinas is bringing here. The next fight is a lightweight MMA fight between Shannon Virachai and Yuri Lapicus. Quite frankly, I have never heard of Yuri Lapicus before, and that's not a knock on him. That's a knock on me that I don't know more. I did some research, of course, and I've seen like some of footage, and obviously looks like a good fighter. Otherwise, he wouldn't be fighting in one against Virachai. Shannon Virachai, our Thai hope in MMA, the guy that One Championship tries to push to the moon and regularly fails. He usually has like very elaborate entrances, and that's, if I sound condescending, that's because his entrances are usually very elaborate and very well choreographed, which is nice, but it only makes sense if you can back it up. So if you have a very elaborate choreographed entrance and then you can't back it up, that just leaves a sour taste in the mouth of the viewers, in my opinion. And so I'm thinking Shannon Virachai should focus on actually not trying to have the coolest entrance and trying to show off flashy moves, but actually yeah, grind, and I don't know, back to the basics. I would suppose, because when he fights, he usually it looks like he's waiting for a moment where he can show off like his flashy cool moves, and he's got really cool moves. So don't get me wrong, like spinning back kicks and stuff like that. It's awesome. Like he can move very very well, but it just seems like if there's no opening for a flashy move, then he's kind of lost. He's got knockout power though, so we've seen him knocking guys out. Um, but he's also been beat up quite a bit in his last few fights. So I'm looking forward to seeing like can he bounce back here now? Because he's slipping down the card more and more every time he fights. So can he bounce back here? Will he get a win eventually? And maybe he put in the work and we can finally see him sticking to the basics, which would be nice. So keep an eye open for Shannon Virchai. Either he's gonna have an amazing entrance and it's gonna suck in the octagon, or he actually puts on a show and makes me shut up and impresses everybody, which would be the ideal outcome, of course. Nothing but the best for Shannon Virchai. We need Thai-based MMA fighters that are successful to promote the sport here. The next fight is actually a women's atomweight fight between Mei Yamaguchi, the former champion who lost to Angela Lee back then, versus Meng Bo from China. I'd focus here, and I'm happy to be surprised, but I'd focus here on Mei Yamaguchi. She's a bit older now, but I think she still got it. She still said she's got the fire, and she wants one final run, I believe. So yeah, let's see if Mei Yamaguchi can find her old form, can go back to her former self, find back to her former self, and put on a show against Meng Bo here. Now my personal, not favorite, but a fight that I'm looking forward on a personal level very much is the next one, which is a Featherweight Kickboxing World Grand Prix quarterfinal. I had to make sure that I read this correctly. Between, and please forgive me if I mispronounce it, Jabbar Askarov from Russia and Enrico Kehl from Germany. And well, being from Germany, I know Enrico Kehl quite well, not personally, but his stats and his fights. And a few years back, he always brought the fight to Burkau here. If you're into Muay Thai kickboxing, you probably know Burkau. He beat Burkau, I believe, and once there was like a big thing where it went into overtime and then Burkau refused to fight or something like this. So he's got lots of success in kickboxing, in Muay Thai. He is not the most likable fighter, I believe, but he's got a very, very aggressive style, which makes it always fun to watch. There's no going back, he's moving forward all the time, usually throwing lots of elbows and spinning back fists, so this should definitely be fun. I'm picking Enrico Kehl here, even though, like I said, he's not the most likable fighter. When you'll see him in the ring, I don't know him in person, but I do like the aggressive style, the always moving forward style, so I hope he moves on and then we see him in the semi-final. The next fight on the card is submission phenom Gary Tonon versus Yoshiki Nakahara from Japan. Gary Tonon did quite well ever since he started in MMA. He won all of his fights here and won championship. The first few times he tried to stand and not bang, but try to show his stand-up skills, because everyone knows him as the submission specialist, of course. So he tried to show that his stand-up is also good, which is not bad, of course. But the last two fights, he then quickly relied on his submission skills, took down his opponents, and then submitted them. So let's see what he will do against the Yoshiki Nakahara. I like how one is building him up rather slowly, and not just saying, hey, Gary Tonon is a famous name in the BJJ community, let's just throw him into the co-main event or something, like maybe other organizations would do, just to get more views on the events. So they're building him slowly and he's climbing up the spots on the card, which I like. So good on one for doing this. Obviously picking Gary Tonon here again, with John Danaher in his corner. How could you not pick Gary Tonon here? Then the next fight is a fight in the strawweight between Alex Silva from Brazil, obviously also very good on the ground, and Yoshitaka Naito, the former champion. Yoshitaka Naito looks probably like the person you would expect least to be a pro MMA fighter when he's not in his gear, but he's a wrestling phenom, also now a bit older already, former champion, and watch out for him. I'm stuttering a little bit here because He's not the most exciting fighter to watch, but he can take a beating and still wrestle you to the ground and then make you tap. So that's a very, very tough one to pick. I think from what I've seen the last time when Naito was fighting, I'm going for Naito here. Wouldn't be surprised if Silver picks it up or picks up the win here. So that's going to be really interesting. So check this out. Then the last prelim, those are still the prelims. The last prelim would be Smoking Joe Natawat from Thailand versus Andy Sauer, and that was planned. But now I read earlier today that Andy Sauer had to pull out, and so now Smoking Joe Natawat faces Sasha Moisa from the Ukraine. And if you've seen Smoking Joe Natawat before, how can you not pick Smoking Joe? He's going forward, he's gonna light his opponent up with his hands and then trying to put him out. Nothing against Sasha Moisa, and he's probably well prepared because he had a fight on the card anyways, but he's no Andy Sauer, I would assume, and you have to pick Smoking Joe here. I don't know what Andy Sauer has, or if it's an injury or anything, but I hope we can see him back in the mix rather soon. So that's the prelims, and those are all awesome fights. It's amazing. So let's start the main card with the first fight on the main card in the strawweight competition, MMA. Another Thai fighter, which I'm rather happy about, is Dechtamarong. His nickname is Krurong. So Dechtamarong, based now in Singapore, fighting out of Evolve MMA, versus Miao Li Tao. I'm sorry, I had to read this. Miao Li Tao. I saw him last time in one, the Chinese fighter, and he had a very impressive fast finish. So Krurong, also now a bit older, and he's now trading wins and losses quite frequently. So that's not a foregone conclusion that he's gonna win here. I do hope that Krurong picks up another win here. He's at the final stretch of his career, and it would just be nice to see him pick up a few more wins before he eventually retires. Obviously, his background is Muay Thai, being out of Thailand, so I'm expecting him to try to keep it standing and maybe get even a knockout. But the Chinese fighter Miao Li Tao is obviously no one to underestimate, and that's going to be a tough fight for the older Krurong, Dechtamarong, versus the younger Chinese fighter. Again, still hoping for Krurong here. We then have a flyweight World Grand Prix alternate bout, so if something goes wrong therein, it's Kim Kyu-sung versus, and I'm reading again, I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce it, Gehe Estakio. While I don't know how to pronounce his name, I've seen him a few times, and he's really, really tough. Tough as nails. The South Korean fighter Kim Kyu-sung. Also, last time I saw him, didn't really put on the greatest of shows, but definitely is one of the fighters that just also goes for it. So the last time I saw him fight, he wouldn't stop. I mean, no one's gonna stop fighting, but he would just move forward all the time and try to put on pressure on his opponent. So I think those two try to prove that they're here for a reason, even though it's an alternate bout. So this should be fun. I don't really have a favorite here. I'd go for the Korean fighter in this case, just because I think maybe Eustachio will underestimate him, because he's not that famous, not that well known yet. But I think he's got lots of power, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes it. The next bout is between Amir Khan from Singapore, not a boxer, Amir Khan from Singapore, and Saigit Gusyen Aslaniliev. I hope I said that halfway correct. From Turkey. And Saigit, please excuse me if I stick with the first name. Saigit is a very strong wrestler. Amir Khan, not. Amir Khan is a very, very good striker. And yeah, his last bout, Amir Khan lost against a wrestler, if I'm not mistaken. Got taken down a few times, and then in the end he couldn't come back anymore, even though he was standing, but he couldn't decide it anymore. He's a very good striker though, and I do hope that Khan strikes back after losing his last bout and will put on a show here, especially since it's in Singapore, in his hometown. I think that motivates him an extra bit, and it's just nice to see him fight. Check it out. Pay attention to his fights. You will see that he fights with a slight disability, which is even more impressive. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, because he also doesn't want to have the attention on that, but it's still very impressive that he goes that far. So should be an interesting bout. check out Amir Khan. Then the next bout is in welterweight. It's between Cosmo Alexandre from Brazil, like a very, an old fighter, a veteran fighter, mostly kickboxing, Muay Thai fighter, versus the wunderkind Sage Northcutt, making his debut for one championship against Cosmo Alexandre. And I like it. I like that one isn't fucking around here, but actually puts Sage into a fight that he could be losing. It's like, hey, you're a star, you're good, you said you're good, you said you won't have tough competition, there you go, veteran fighter. This, I mean, of course, Sage Northcutt is kind of the favorite here, but I mean, we've seen what happened with Eddie Alvarez, so that's no joke. Cosmo Alexandre is no joke. He hits really, really hard, like really hard if you see the footage. So Sage, cover your pretty face, bite down on that mouth guard, and show us what you got. It's gonna be really interesting. Then, Muay Thai hearts rejoice. Featherweight kickboxing world Grand Prix. Kickboxing, but still, come on, Muay Thai fans across the world can't wait to see Yodsanklai Fairtext back in the octagon again against Sami Sana from France. Sami Sana, quite well known in the world of kickboxing, Muay Thai, also over here in Thailand. But it's Yodsanklai. Again, it's Yodsanklai. If you've never seen a Yodsanklai fight before, go, after you watch this video, check out, just type into YouTube Yodsanklai Fairtext and be amazed. That much power in a leg is just not fair. That's just not fair how much power Yodsanklai has in his hands, but also then in his leg. Insanity. His last fight was a clear-cut knockout. Amazing. He was retired for a while. Now he's back because I assume one just threw all the money in the world at him. So much fun to watch him. Check it out. Yodsanklai KO. Then, speaking of amazing kickboxers, and just imagine what we will see in the next round. It's amazing. If Yodsanklai wins here, and then the next fight between Patch Morakot from Patch India Academy, Patch Morakot based out of Bangkok, Thailand, from Patch India Academy, versus Giorgio Petrosyan, the doctor, the most famous kickboxer in the world, Giorgio Petrosyan from Italy. Again, his nickname the doctor, because he picks apart his opponents like a doctor usually. And I'm speechless, as you can see, I'm speechless. First of all, Patch Morakot is a great fighter. I don't know how it translates to kickboxing, to be honest, because he's obviously, when you're based in Thailand, a Muay Thai fighter. But I mean, then just don't throw elbows or don't clinch too much, so it should be fine. But Petrosyan is just an amazing fighter, and just imagine if he wins and Yodsanklai wins and we see Yodsanklai against Petrosyan. Whoo! I've got goosebumps thinking about that. So that's gonna be awesome. I'm sure Patch Morakot brings the fight to Petrosyan. I do think Petrosyan will show the Thai some kickboxing tricks that he hasn't seen before, maybe because it's not Muay Thai. So it's just a little bit different. So I assume Petrosyan gets it done. Maybe even just via points. But just imagine Petrosyan with Yodsanklai later on. Whew. Okay, I'm ready. 2 more bouts to go. Then the next one is also a lightweight kickboxing world championship. It's Niki Holzken versus Region Ursel. I'm sorry again for botching it. It's 2 Dutch fighters. Who would have thought that in a kickboxing final kickboxing world championship, 2 Dutch fighters? Not surprised. I only know Holzken quite well, again, not personally, but I would be nice to talk to him for a bit. But his last bout was really impressive, really great KO. But also everything that he's done before was just nothing short of amazing. He's got like those combinations where you think like, oh my god, how did you come up with those combinations, and how did you land them? And so much power in his hands, in his legs, his kicks. I'm staring at the matchup here right now. Ursel obviously also looks good from the few things that I've seen that I could find while researching. But you can't not go with Holzken here, I think, after what we've seen the last few bouts from him. Yeah, Holzken takes this. And then The the main event, I'm sorry. And I've got a few issues with the main event. Who would have thought that I have issues? Because for those who know me, I always have issues with some things that one is doing. But first of all, I love One Championship. I mean, I'm wearing their stuff here. I paid for that, so it's not that they gave it just to me. So I like what they're doing. But this main event is the lightweight world championship between the champion Shinya Aoki, who is amazing, versus Christian Lee from Singapore. And if you're not familiar with Christian Lee, first of all, he's the younger brother of Angela Lee. So that's nice. Fighting with the family. Cheap plug. Yeah. But usually he fights in a weight class lower. And, well, his fights are not without controversy very often. That's not because he's like cheating or anything. He's just sometimes too eager, I believe. So I think he has 2 fights where he slammed the opponent with like illegal slams, or at least one was illegal and he got disqualified, and then another time it wasn't deemed illegal because it wasn't exactly a slam. It has a different angle than the slams that's not allowed or something. It was controversial, but one is still pushing him to the moon, which is always a bit. I rather see the fighters doing it organically rather than being pushed just because they're young and attractive and their name is Lee. Nevertheless, he's an amazing fighter. He goes forward. There's no going back. As soon as the bell rings, he's in there running towards the opponent, trying to topple them. And so I'm not trying to hate on Christian Lee. I just say it would be nice to see like a more organic growth here. But if he gets it done, amazing. And I mean, knowing what he can do from previous bouts, he's strong, he's fast. Knowing that Angela Lee, apparently it's in the family that they are all wizards on the ground. I assume he is too. We haven't seen that much of him on the ground yet, but apparently he's great on the ground as well. So he should be fine with the wrestling genius that is Shinya Aoki. So this will be a great bout, I believe. Either it's over within the first 30 seconds or it goes all 5 rounds, in my opinion. I do think, I'm not sure. I mean, it's in Singapore. Angela Lee lost her last bout, so maybe Christian is extra motivated here to show that the Lee family has got it. But it's Shinya Aoki, and the way he won his last fight was really, really, really impressive. Yeah, wrestling, takedown, ground and pound, there you go. But in a really impressive manner. I don't know who I'm taking. I think Shinya Aoki might get it done, but I wouldn't surprise if Christian Lee just picks him up, slams him down, kind of like what we've seen in UFC this past weekend. That the power might, yeah, be victorious over the technical sound fighter. Anyways, it should be a great fight. Shinya Aoki, Christian Lee. I'm going for Shinya Aoki, but wouldn't be surprised if Christian Lee pulls it off. Amazing card. This should be like one of the best MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, combat sports fight events this year so far. I can't wait to watch it. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how much I suck in predicting things afterwards. No problem. I'm looking forward to watching this and talk to you after.